Was the Monday before Christmas when all through the league, not a GM was stirring, not even James Click. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, with hopes that Carlos Correa soon would be resigned. The fans were nestled all snug in their beds, with visions of the Astros winning another World Series in their heads. And we're going to talk about the fact that Carlos Correa, would he actually resign with Houston Astros? I know this is a topic that we've talked about a lot on this Locked On Astros podcast, but Buster Olney said some stuff this past week, and I haven't addressed it. So I do want to take a second to address what Buster Olney had to say about not just the offer that he turned down with the Tigers, but what he said about what he could accept with the Houston Astros. And we'll talk about this and more on this episode of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett's still a little bit under the weather, so he's not going to be able to join the show, but we're hoping to have him back on with the next few days. But it's probably going to be a short week anyway because of the Christmas holiday. It's time to spend time with family, not talking about the Astros during a lockout. But speaking of which, I know I didn't have a show for this morning, but I did make it this morning. But thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. And whether it's YouTube, keep on subscribing, keep on giving some likes, and keep on listening to us on the way to work, on the way home from work, wherever you listen to us on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to Locked On Astros podcast. Thank you for that. So I know that earlier today I did a podcast looking at what's next for Alex Bregman, how he can take the next step to becoming that superstar again. But at that time, I kind of was drawing attention to what happened to Carlos Correa over the weekend and some quotes from Buster Olney. So I'll go ahead and talk about that. This is a quote from The Score. I guess Buster Olney is writing for The Score now. And this is what he said. He said, Carlos Correa turned a monster payday from the Detroit Tigers this offseason. The Tigers offered him 10-year, $275 million contract before the lockout, a source told Buster Olney. Correa is reportedly seeking to outdo Francisco Lindor's $341 million deal with the New York Mets. And the Tigers also landed Javier Baez on a 6-year, $140 million pack in December. So it's not clear if they want to go ahead and add Correa still, but that's an option they could do. They can always move one of them to third base. I know that Baez played second base last year with the Mets, so this is an option. But something that Buster Olney also mentioned was that Carlos Correa and the Houston Astros could look into a shorter term contract with a higher average annual salary if he can't get the deal that he desires elsewhere, according to Olney. So we know that the Astros offered him a 5-year, $160 million pack after the 2021 season. So where can the Astros and Carlos Correa come in a agreement here? And what does a short-term agreement look like? Does that mean a 3-year deal? Hey, Carlos, we'll give you a 3-year deal we'll make you the highest paid position player. Are you really going to do that, Astros fan? Just give him like a 4-year deal and say, we'll make you the highest paid position plan, because watch out. I did research who's the highest paid position players. Mike Trout is making $37 million a year. Anthony Rendon is making $37.5 million per year. And then you scroll down, most of these guys are pitchers. Nolan Arenado is making $35 million per year. Then you have Francisco Lindor making 34.1. And then, hey, there's Corey Seager making 33 million per season. Then Manny Machado making 32. Then Miguel Cabrera making 32. And then you jump down to George Brinker making 29.6666666. So the question is, where does Carlos Correa fit in all this? Like, are you really going to make him the highest paid position player? Because this is what Correa wants. He wants to, it's not, yes, it's about the money, but it's also about trying to be, I'm the best. I know I'm the best. I deserve to be paid more than Francisco Lindor. Breaking news, guys. I don't think Francisco Lindor deserved that contract. And not only did he sign the 10-year deal for $341 million, but he got a $21 million signing bonus as well. Mets, what were you smoking that day? That's a lot of money that you threw at a guy that is a good player. Don't get me wrong. Francisco Lindor is a great player, but was he really worth that much money? And what he did was he set the market high for everybody else. Corey Seager, did he deserve that? I don't know, but I think the Rangers got desperate. The Rangers were like, okay, well, we missed out on Baez. I think Baez went before Seager. I don't remember exact timeline there, but they weren't going to go for Correa. I think Correa was asking for too much. So I think they're like, okay, well, let's go. Let's at least get Corey Seager. We know what we were getting with him. We know we got a good bat. His defense may not be as great as Correa's is, but it's good enough. So the Rangers just threw a lot of money at Corey Seager. How else do you think that he was able to leave the Dodgers? I mean, the Dodgers reportedly offered him an 8-year deal. So why would you turn down a deal with the Dodgers that you know are going to go to the playoffs, possibly go to the World Series every year, every other year, even during Mickey Mouse seasons? The Dodgers are a good team. Why would you leave that team for 2 extra seasons to go play with the Rangers, who finished in last place and were the laughingstock of baseball? Even after all these moves, are they that much better a team? Yes, their offense is better, but are they going to pitch well enough? So the question is how much are you willing to pay Carlos Correa? So short-term deal. We know that Jim Crane is not going to go above 5 years, maybe 6 years. So let's say 6 years max. And you're going to have to pay him higher. So let's say that, let me look at what the Tigers offered him. Tigers offered him like $27.5 million per season for 10 years. First of all, Tigers, that was kind of a weak offer. I don't think that was even close, but I think that was just the Tigers saying, hey, we want to date you. We know we're not that attractive and we don't make a lot of money, but we really want you. So how about we sign this long-term deal and we'll pay you a lot of money. But I think Carlos Correa wants more money and he wants the long-term deal. The Astros are willing to pay him more money, but they don't want to give him the long-term deal. So the Tigers were willing to give him the long-term deal, just not the money. So they're waiting for a team to say, okay, we'll give you both. The problem is that the Yankees are balking at it. The Dodgers, they didn't re-sign their own guy. Why go after Carlos Correa if you could have thrown that money at Corey Seager? You know Corey Seager. You know that what type of player Corey Seager is. Why would you not go ahead and re-sign Corey Seager unless you knew something was maybe not healthy with him or something like that? So there's just so many questions. So in a second, we'll talk about, I see some of y'all making some comments, and during this little break, I do want y'all to say, what do you think Carlos Correa in a short-term deal with a higher AAV, what do you think that would look like? Let's say it's a 6-year deal. How much money would you throw at Carlos Correa? And we'll talk about that in a second. But first of all, I do want to talk about Built Bar. No, we can't talk about Carlos Correa getting Built Bars. He won't take Built Bars. But this holiday season, make sure you grab a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than candy bar. Built Bar, it's filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, like getting a long-term deal and making the most money. So many flavors you have a hard time choosing. Will you have raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie? don't tell Brett, but I'm giving him some Built Bars for Christmas. It's a perfect gift. So it gives you the extra fuel. If you still need to go shopping, first of all, good luck with that. And second of all, if you're going to be waiting in line for a long time, make sure you if you take a backpack or if you take a purse or something, make sure you keep some Built Bars in your purse. That way you can have that just go just in case you get hungry, because I know how long those lines can get. So, and if you're at a Christmas party, don't bring up Built Bars and say what your favorite flavor is, because everybody has their different flavors and everybody's very passionate about it. And everybody says, well, why don't you bake some cookies for Santa? Why leave cookies when you have these Built Bars? Just leave Built Bars. And I know Santa, wink, wink, would love to have a Built Bar, and maybe the reindeer too. Well, I think reindeer probably need the carrots. So tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in the stocking. So dip your Built Bar in a piping hot cup of cocoa, let it melt a little bit, and give her beverage a bit of Built Bar flavor. Plus, you'll have a nice melty Built Bar to go with it. Be sure to have a couple of napkins on hand. Like some of those marshmallow treats around the holidays, you can get those as well. Go to BuiltBar.com, use a promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Once again, go to Built.com and use a promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. So let's go ahead and look at what some of y'all projections are. And Mr. Corona earlier said that he says, what about 6 years, $210 million? So let's do the math here. So let me get my handy dandy calculator out, because I know I'm a math teacher, but I'm on vacation. So that's $35 million per year. If I was Carlos Correa, I would want to top Mike Trout. So I think he may consider that, but same time, Samuel, let me put that back up. You are giving him less than the highest average paid position player, and you're also giving him less than 10 years he wanted. Mr. Corona, sorry, not Samuel, but Mr. Corona. And also, so I think you're going to have to give him something that he wants. You either make him the highest paid position player, or you give him the 10 years that he wants. You're going to have to give him something. So let's see what else we got. Let's see. I wouldn't go. Astroworld Craig says I wouldn't go 6. I think it would be hard to turn down 190 million over 5 years. Okay, so let's do that math. 190 divided by 5, that is 38. Okay, so I see where you're going, Astroworld Craig, but Astros Wolf Craig. But at the same time, that would make him given the highest AAV of all the position players, but that's also giving him 5 years versus the 10 years he wants. So you are giving him in a little bit, but I think you're not meeting him halfway. You're going to have to meet him halfway. So that's why I think the 6 years is about something like that. Yes, we are talking luxury tax. This all depends on what happens with the CBA and if the luxury tax goes up. I've heard rumors that it may go down. So if it goes down, the Astros are already screwed. So because their luxury tax is already at a certain point. So it just depends. So Angel says 6 years, 210 million. So I believe that's kind of what somebody else said. So 6 years, 210 million. What about Mr. Corona said 6 years, 270. Okay, so let's do that math. 6 years, 270. So that's 45. Wow. Mr. Corona, I must have talked you into it. I need to be a negotiator if that's the case, but that's 45 million per year, AAV of 45 per year. I think that would be excessive. I think you want to overpay, but I think that's a little bit overpaying, but I do see where you're going. I would have to go with Astros Wolf Craig's idea. If you're going to pay him 45, I would say 45 for 5 years and see what he says. So let's do 45 times 5. That's 225. So maybe do something like that. So see like something like that. So we'll see like that. Because there's got to be some give or take here. So what this whole situation is for those of y'all just joining in is that there's not any of the big takers left really. Like the Yankees could go out to get him, but also Carlos Correa disrespected their captain, Derek Jeter. And I saw that Talking Yanks or Talking Baseball, I think it was Talking Yanks, had like a bobblehead of Derek Jeter holding all his gold gloves up. And he said somebody needs to give this to Carlos Correa for Christmas as a little joke. But I just don't see the Yankees going after Carlos Correa. The other team that could do it is the Dodgers. And I saw a podcast right before I went live saying the Dodgers are expected to sign Carlos Correa. That's not what I've heard. So I don't know if the Dodgers are even interested in that situation. I mean, why would you go after public enemy number one after talking crap about him for 2 years? So I'm Mr. Corona. I am going to go back to the CBA issue in a second, but so there's so much to go into this. So what Carlos Correa has to understand is that he is still young. He still has a big career ahead of him, but he's at this critical moment where he feels like he has the ability to say, no, I'm going to wait for my time. It's my time. It's my time. And that's what he said during the playoffs. And so he's going to wait for his whole deal. So 3 years for 110. I don't know if he'll go that low. Let me see what that is. No, I think if you're going to go 3 years, it's going to have to be 45 million per year. So if you're going to go low ball like that, you're going to have to up the ante. So it's kind of like if you're leasing an apartment, the shorter term deal, it's going to have to go up. So the longer term would go down, but the shorter term would have to go up. And that's the way I see it. I could be totally wrong, but just look at what Max Scherzer did. Look at what a pitcher for the Dodgers. I'm not going to say his name on this podcast anymore, but you know who I'm talking about. So he did a short-term deal as well. So, but they asked for those high value contracts. So in fact, let's look at some of the largest salaries in baseball right now. Max Scherzer, 43 million. Mike Trout has the 37 million. Then you have Anthony Rendon, 36. Jacob deGrom, 36. Garrett Cole, 36. Then you have the person I won't mention his name, 35 million. Steven Strasburg, that was a Strasburg, wow, 35 million. Arenado, 35. And then a lot of names that I've already mentioned. And David Price is down there with 32 million. Chris Sale, 30 million. So, and then Jose Altuve is on this list with 29 million. And then you have Justin Verlander on here with 25 million. And then you have a name that a lot of people are comparing Carlos Correa to, and not necessarily because they're both shortstops, but Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is kind of in a similar situation that Correa was, but I think that Correa is going to demand a little bit more money than Harper did when he signed his deal, just because he's a shortstop. Shortstops are at a little bit of premium. So, let's see. Arlie says 3 years at 150. I think that's a little excessive. I get where you're going. You're going to my theory there, but I would say stake. I don't think the union and I don't think the owners would allow that, because they want to try to keep it at a certain amount. So I think though, what's the highest salary right now? The highest salary right now is Max Scherzer at 43. And I believe that was like a 2-year deal, maybe 3-year deal. So the highest other deal was 37. So I don't think they're going to want to go too high, but I like where you're going. So we'll see what's going on there. So, so it just, there's a whole bunch of factors to go in. And no, yes, I do agree that 45 million is too much. But I'm just saying what Carlos Correa is thinking. He said he's thinking, if you want to do a short-term deal, this is what you're going to have to pay me. I want to be the highest paid player. I'm not saying that's what the Astros are going to do. I'm just saying that's what he's thinking. And so I don't see the Astros paying more than 40 million. They definitely have to pay more than Mike Trout. So somebody said like 38 million, anything that's above 38 million, 39 million on a short-term deal. I think most Astros fans would say, go for it for a short-term deal. The problem is Albert Pujols' contract. How well did that work out for the Angels? These 10-year deals, they don't normally work out for teams. And I know there's some other teams that are going to be issues. So Mr. Corona says 40 years like that. And then, so yeah. So Mr. Corona says 5 years, 200 million. So I could see that 40 million per year. So I can see that. So that's the type of deal that Buster Olney is talking about, that Carlos Correa is going to use this time to kind of reflect on what he's doing during the lockout. And then once the lockout opens or ends, whether that's spring training, whether that's into spring training or before spring training or into April, whenever the lockout ends, then Carlos Correa has to say, okay, are you interested? You're not? Okay, fine. What about you? Are you interested? Okay, fine. And then I'll have to kind of move on. So he's just got to find a interesting suitor. And speaking of any interesting suitor, I'll have to talk about what a certain fan base did to Carlos Correa in a second. But I don't know if I would bet on the Astros re-signing Carlos Correa. It's going to take a huge commitment. But speaking of betting, let's talk about BetOnline. .ag. They have you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as the football season continues to march to playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action this season. Head to your new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. Hey, I didn't even realize that the Texans won on Sunday. I was at a Christmas party and somebody told me, hey, the Texans won. I'm like, they did? Wow. If you went to betonline.ag, they probably gave you the odds of the Texans winning. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, so Mr. JC Willie Four says that he was at the game. So I'm glad you're able to just go there and just witness that miracle, that Christmas miracle, so to speak, that the Texans actually won a game. But Cubs fans, you are standing around a Christmas tree in central, I don't know what you call, I've never been to Chicago, but I could just imagine a big tree and you're standing around Central Park. Let me just call it Central Park because I don't know what it's called, and you're singing a Christmas carol. And then you start singing, Correa, Correa, come play in Chicago. Okay. So you think he's actually going to respond to that? Well, he did. And he said, Carlos Correa actually responded to the Cubs fans actually singing a song serenading him to come to Chicago. He said, happy holidays to you all. Put a Christmas tree and then put a heart in the Cubs color. So a lot of people are saying, oh, even talking baseball is like, ooh, is Carlos Correa dropping hints to Cubs fans with the little sideways eyes? No, I just think that he's just acknowledging their effort of singing this. So the amount of planning it took for them to do this is pretty impressive. The Cubs fan had actually write the song, rewrite the song to actually coordinate this. And it's almost like the Dodgers fans marching down the streets of Houston when they played in Houston this past year. And so the amount of coordination that they took to do this is actually pretty impressive. And so does that mean that Carlos Correa is going to be like, you know what? Those Cubs fans really impressed me. Let me go play in Chicago. No, that doesn't mean he's going to go play in Chicago, but that was pretty impressive that they got it done. So the Cubs are a team that you could probably watch out for. They probably have some money, especially after dumping some salaries over the past couple of years, but are they going to have a good enough team to compete for a few years? So it's going to be kind of like going from the Astros, who are a team that go to the World Series a lot, to go to the Cubs, who are kind of, I don't want to say they're in a full rebuilding mode because they're not. They traded Chris Bryant. They traded Javier Baez last year. They still have a decent team, but they're not the Houston Astros, who are built to win a World Series this year. And that's what I think Carlos Correa is also considering is, yes, I could go make 10 years, 275 million with the Tigers. I could go play with AJ Hinch, but I just don't understand I want to win. And that's what he's not so sure that the the Tigers are ready for that. And so we'll see what happens. So, um, like Mr. JC Willie says, you can't forfeit the future just to keep Correa. That's something I've been saying. At the same time, I get people like Alex throwing stuff at me. Well, you can't. You must be in it's Trevor Story's agent or something trying to get money. But yeah, you don't want to throw all your monkeys or your eggs in one basket. And that's what you would do if you commit a big chunk of the salary over to Carlos Correa. And another thing, going back to the CBA that Mr. Corona asked earlier. So let's say that you do a shorter term deal with a higher AAV. Okay, you're already going to be super exceeding the luxury tax threshold in 2022. It does it, even if it goes up $10 million. The Astros only had, last I checked, it was only like, I probably should have had that up already, but let me just pull it up real quick. Team payrolls, tax payrolls. But last I checked, I believe they only have, here it is. The Astros only have about 23 million in space for this year. So let's say that they sign Carlos Correa for 38 million, just to say to get him over that Mike Trout ability and sign him for a long-term deal. You're going to be going over the luxury tax threshold. And that's something that Jim Crane in the past has said he doesn't want to do. But at the same time, he does want to have a winning team this year. So would that mean that you have to trade somebody like a Jake Odorizzi? Would you have to trade some other talent to just get underneath the luxury tax threshold? Or is Jim Crane just going to say, screw it, let's just go do it? But at the same time, you're limiting yourself in 2022. I mean, I guess not. If you're going to go over the luxury tax threshold, you're just going to go all in. And if you need something trade deadline, we're already over. Go get a reliever. Go get a first. No, let me not jinx anybody. Go get it, whatever position you need, and at the trade deadline, because you're already over. But the years it's going to hurt is 2023, 2024, 2025. Oh wait, Alex Bregman's deal is up. Altuve's deal is coming up. Wait, what about Kyle Tucker? What about Yordan Alvarez? Their deals are coming up. So that's what somebody was saying earlier about you don't want to limit your future just to retain Carlos Correa. And I think that's what a lot of teams have gotten their backs up against the wall. And that's why you see teams like the Rays and the A's have success, because they don't go out and sign the players to big long-term deals. They just get this cheap talent, let it develop. And once they're ready to go, they just kind of let them go and then develop more talent. And then they keep on finding ways to win. And yes, that works, but at the same time, you want to keep some players around, and that's what the Astros are trying to do here. So, yes, Mr. Corona said it'll be tax penalties. You'll have to pay a whole bunch of money, millions and millions in taxes. You'll have to lose draft picks. I think international draft pool, which is where the Astros get get hurt as well. So. Yes, that's why I kind of I stopped. But actually, Yuli is a free agent after this year, so they may need a first baseman. So anyway, so I don't know what does this mean for Carlos Correa and the Houston Astros. I just know that if there's no team out there willing to give him the money and giving him the long-term deal he wants, he may have to come back to the Astros and say, all right, let's work out a deal. Let's make a deal. And the Astros will have to meet him halfway, because apparently if they're willing to go 10 years, I think the deal would have been done by now. I think they're stuck at that 6 years, and the Astros have told Carlos Correa, look, we're not going past the 6 years. But I do have some other little news. We don't have to worry about Joe Espada. He's going to be, I mentioned this in this morning podcast, but Buck Showalter was hired as the Mets manager, and then Kotze was hired as the A's manager. So Joe Espada is safe for now as the Astros bench coach. But next year, if there's any openings, he's probably going to be one of the top candidates for that. So we need to see what happens with Dusty Baker. And the Astros did sign a infielder. It was a lifetime minor leaguer. He's basically a defensive wizard. I'm trying to find his name, but I think it's Edwin Diaz, and he's here it is. He's a longtime A's farmhand and infield defensive wizard, Edwin Diaz, and he has a minor league deal with a big league invite to spring training with the Houston Astros. So no, he's not the replacement for Carlos Correa, but this is basically a depth option for the Astros in case they need it. But he's somebody that is not anybody to probably he's going to make the 40-man roster or something. So no, yeah, I kind of did that look for a reason just to get y'all thinking it was Robel Garcia, but it was not Robel Garcia. It was Edwin Diaz. So, and not the pitcher, not the Seattle closer. I guess he's with the Mets now. I think he was traded. I could be wrong, but anyway, so I don't think Carlos Correa is going to get what Seager got. I still don't know why the Rangers gave Seager that much money. I don't think he's going to get what Lindor got, but the Astros, if they're going to re-sign him, they're going to have to find some in between. So we'll have to see what happens. So that's all I got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll do another what Michael Brantley needs to do to take the next step. And hopefully Brett will be able to join us back on the Locked On Astros podcast soon. And if I don't see you again, have a happy holidays and go Astros.